Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ryan Garcia, on the eve of what is the New York State Athletic Commission's ruling, took to his social media and released a string of tweets that seemed to accent impending doom. Ryan said, "I'm officially retired. Forget that I existed, everyone. You're so cringe. You have my profile picture, so suck a good one. Y'all may catch me out and about, but as far as boxing, I don't know. There is so much corruption. I'm over it. I may do acting or singing. I'll be training, but I'm hurt and done it, and everyone. The sad part is I'm a great boxer, and I entertain and knock people out. I'm outie." So I remember a couple of days ago what Ryan Garcia's lawyer was hoping for was that the New York State Athletic Commission's sentence wasn't too harsh, that it would only be for 6 months or less. His suspension, which is almost like no suspension at all, because the span of time in between two fights these days could be anywhere in between 6 months to a year. So if you're suspended for 6 months, it's like not being suspended at all, because that's the amount of time you were going to be out anyway. But it would seem that Ryan Garcia is anticipating a harsher suspension, and that's been the rumor for the last 2 days, that it may not be 6 months he's out for, it may be 2 years. For a first offense? Why would the New York State Athletic Commission hand down such a harsh suspension for what would be a first-time offender? I mean, Ryan's never tested positive for anything before. It took 2 positive tests on 2 separate occasions before Alexander Povetkin was suspended for 2 years, or Jarrell Miller. 2 separate situations on 2 separate occasions that led to those 2 fighters being suspended for 2 years. Not just one like Ryan. So why would they choose to hand him down such a harsh suspension, if they do hand him down a harsh suspension, for what is a first-time offender? And it could be that he tried to falsify the data, fool them. He tried to shift the blame over to what are 2 separate supplement manufacturers, one of which conducted their own independent testing on containers of the same lot number that Ryan Garcia sent in, and none of those containers tested positive for Osterin, which greatly hurt the credibility of Ryan Garcia's story. That Ryan never actually proved he was innocent, in spite of what some content creators would have had you believe. He never did. But in the pursuit of metrics and engagement for the purposes of monetization and put money in their pocket, they told a version of the story that really wasn't true. That's what these people do. Lie to me and you, asserting Ryan Garcia's innocence when he was still in the hot seat, and he never actually proved that he was innocent. And the matter was far from settled. And what Ryan Garcia did do is make himself look even more guilty. By falsifying what was supposed to be evidence of his innocence, he made himself look more guilty. Where do you get that he falsified it? If your explanation is that the Osterin they found in your system came from 2 supplement manufacturers, 2 separate brands that you were taking, the odds of that being legitimate are slim to nil, because those 2 manufacturers don't use the same warehouse, do they? So how could 2 separate supplements from 2 separate manufacturers test positive for the same drug they found in you? It's because you put it there to bolster your story's credibility. And at least one of those manufacturers isn't taking it lying down, because they conducted their own independent testing on supplement containers with the same lot number as the one that you sent in, and none of those came back positive for Osterin. So you can't shift the blame over to them. It didn't work. The optics for this were never very good either. I mean, here you have a guy who was flippant about the rules and flippant about making weight. So why wouldn't he be flippant about not taking banned substances? Might have skirted off those rules too. Clearly, you don't think you have to play by them if you go as far as admitting that you didn't make the contracted weight for the fight because you didn't feel like it, because you didn't want to weaken yourself. Well, you're clearly looking for an edge. Been all through this. And in a very general sense, Ryan Garcia carrying on the way he's been carrying on his social media throughout all of this, saying things like, I love steroids and give me all the steroids. It gives the powers that be and the people in charge the impression that you're not taking this seriously.
You were flippant about the rules and now you're flippant about the process.
Protocols and provisions in this situation, it's clear that you think you're above the law, above the rules. This is a high-profile doping case. Now, some doping cases, they happen under the radar, like Erica Cruz's doping case. There aren't a lot of people talking about that. Whereas this, everybody knows about this.
People in boxing, people outside of boxing, that puts even more pressure on the New York State Athletic Commission to not appear impotent in front of the boxing community at large. They have to do something, and all the while, you're being flippant about the process and flippant about the accusations.
They're not accusations, it's just a fact. They found aspirin in your system. And ever since they did, you may have made it even worse on yourself.
When all of this started, I said it from the get. Ryan is giving everybody the ammunition to use against him, that if people are saying what they're saying,
it's because he's being too cavalier, too brazen. He won't shut up.
Now he claims he's retiring.
Listen, this don't surprise me that Ryan Garcia is talking about that he's retired and he's not going to stand up for his fate in 48 hours. Everybody's been protecting him. We know these couple channels, Ego and Showbiz. You seem to celebrate guys on drugs in the ring, but you're running out of time. In 48 hours, your boy, Ryan Garcia, will be suspended. And you networks, promoters, and everybody that's been trying to protect him, you're gonna go down with the shit.
On the eve of Ryan Garcia's sentencing, if you will, Bill Haney has taken aim at what content creators have argued in his defense. Two of them, two here on YouTube with much bigger channels than this one.
Why would anybody argue Ryan's innocence given how this looks?
It's a diverse pool of agendas, but rest assured, it's all agendas, all ulterior motives. Some of it are just people that don't like Bill and don't like Devin. They don't actually care if Ryan deliberately blew the weight and admitted it, tested positive for a banned substance. None of it bothers them so long as Devin loses, because that's what they want more than anything. They want him to lose, fair or unfair, and that's what motivates them.
So they'll pretend like he's innocent.
Some fans and some content creators, in the pursuit of metrics and monetization, capitalizing off this fiasco, will go as far as arguing in Ryan's defense because they know that Ryan has a rather large social media following, and if they can get some of those followers to take in their content and watch it, they get to capitalize off it, whether they believe he's innocent or not.
And most of them probably don't.
That if this situation played out exactly as it played out, but with two different fighters, they wouldn't keep the same energy for them that they're keeping for this. They wouldn't argue so vehemently that one fighter is innocent. You don't do this every time a guy tests positive for a banned substance. So what makes Ryan so special?
What is so upstanding or outstanding about Ryan Garcia that you want to convince so many people he didn't cheat when it looks a lot like he did?
Some of it is just content creators looking for metrics, looking for money. Others fancy themselves lab techs.
Oh, you know all about it, huh?
You're in the know. You're in a loop, aren't you, Tony Trenbo? Asking red herring and rhetorical questions like why would Ryan Garcia ingest a banned substance the day before and the day of the fight, but who says he did? That's just when he was tested.
That's just when the samples were collected. Nobody said he took a banned substance the day before or the day of.
And what about the banned substance? I've heard individuals go as far as saying that aspirin would have provided him no benefit.
It's not a good drug.
That if you were going to use a performance-enhancing drug to enhance your performance, you wouldn't have used that one. And yet, this is not an isolated incident. You think that Ryan Garcia is the first boxer to test positive for aspirin? Povetkin tested positive for it years ago. Amir Khan tested positive for it years later.
Ryan ain't the only one.
Maybe you don't know as much about this subject as you think you do. And maybe you're making an ass out of yourself, trying to play devil's advocate.
Maybe.
This entire fiasco has revealed boxing's true face, in a manner of speaking, and it's what I always said. These people pick and choose when they want to care and when they don't, when they want to frown upon this and when they don't, because when it comes to Ryan Garcia, you want to stand on your soapbox.
He's innocent.
Do you normally argue this vehemently on the behalf of fighters that test positive for banned substances? Is this what you did when Povetkin tested positive for Osterin, or when Amir Khan tested positive for Osterin? Is this what you always do? Do you keep the same energy?
The benefit of the doubt that you're now giving Ryan, did you give it to Oscar Valdez when he tested positive for clomiphene? Or what about Conor Benn? What about Canelo when he tested positive for clenbuterol?
Did you argue their innocence and argue on their behalf the way you are now arguing on Ryan's? Because if you didn't, you're just a hypocrite.
I thought you said you didn't care about pets.
I don't. As far as I'm concerned, a larger portion of the boxing world may be using banned substances than the fans realize.
Then what are you being so hard on Ryan for?
I'm not. All I've been saying is I think he cheated, he deliberately cheated, he's guilty, and that's what the argument centers around. There are a lot of people that want to pretend that he's innocent when he looks guilty.
That's it.
The only thing that separates this case from other anti-doping cases is you don't normally get this many people arguing on a fighter's behalf in his defense.
That's the only thing that's different.
But my stance on Ryan's situation is the same as my stance on, say, Fury's situation with Nandrolone.
He cheated.
Povetkin's situation with meldonium and subsequently aspirin.
He cheated.
Jerome Miller's 2 doping situations.
He cheated.
They cheated. And the list goes on. That it's not that I'm not keeping the same energy, it's you guys that aren't keeping the same energy.
Because where normally you wouldn't go up to bat for the fighter like this, you're going up to bat for Ryan. But why? What is so upstanding or outstanding about Ryan that you need the world to believe he's innocent?
The projecting in association with this doping case, unlike some others, has been out of this world. That you have to have an ulterior motive, an agenda, to say you think Ryan cheated. No, I think you have an agenda if you say he's innocent.
I think you have to have an ulterior motive.
You would have to, whether it's that you don't like Bill and Devin, or you're just a content creator looking to make some money, or you're just some smartass.
Not so smart.
Playing devil's advocate and giving Ryan the benefit of the doubt when you don't give most fighters in this situation the benefit of the doubt. So why are you all of a sudden doing it now?
Because you have an agenda.
You have an ulterior motive, and you're not as smart as you think you are. No, you didn't need a PhD to see where this was going.
And you didn't need to be Columbo or Telly Savalas to figure out that this kid is guilty, and he's only making it worse for himself.
So how stupid do you look now? How stupid do you feel? If they do hand him a harsh punishment, upwards of 2 years, upwards of a 2-year suspension, is it because of how innocent he is, or how much he proved that he was innocent?
Is it?
Because that's what you told people. That's what you've been saying. If the punishment turns out to be a lot harsher for a lot longer than originally anticipated, I don't think it's because of how much Ryan proved he was innocent.
Just saying.
He's a free agent. You know, a lot of these fighters like to champion the fact that they're free agents, and they all have their own promotional company.
I'm starting to think that Eddie Hearn watches the relay, because a lot of the talking points he's bringing up are the same ones that I brought up not but a day or so ago, and they're valid.
They're the exact same ones that I brought up.
DHP didn't bid. They didn't bid because they didn't want to take a financial risk on the fight. What, so you won't, but yet I have to, even when you're not under contract to me, or I'm not obliged to.
And isn't that what I said? That for saying that Devin should get this amount of money or that amount of money if he's good for it, why doesn't he just put up the money himself? He's a promoter.
Because he doesn't want to take on that financial risk any more than Matchroom.
Doesn't really work like that. I had a conversation the night before the bid with Devin Haney's lawyer, and I said to him, we would be interested to make Liam Paro against Devin Haney in a unification fight. Speak to the WBC, see what happens. I'll speak to DAZN, see if we're even going to bid. Come back to me. I never heard back from him. So, and I wasn't waiting for the call because I've got other things to worry about. I've got fighters that are with me. I've got fighters that I have contractual obligations towards that I have to deliver for. Now, Devin's my mate. I'll always back him. I'll always be there for him. But on a business level, I can't just pluck money from budgets when I'm not obliged to for fights that don't have the value.
No promoter worth his weight in nose hair would have bid in excess of $3 to $4 to $5 million for Haney versus Sandor Martin. That's not a hot ticket. That's not a great fight.
It doesn't matter what Devin made in another fight.
Because is he going to generate that amount with this one? That if you spend upwards of $4 to $5 million to win the rights for this fight at a purse bid, do you get the $4 to $5 million back? Because if you don't, then you shouldn't bother.
Matchroom didn't.
So, as I said, when you are a free agent, if your commercial value in a fight is high, congratulations. If it's not, that's when you need the promoter.
And that's what I said. That Devin Haney here and now is not in a place where the promotional outfits are just going to throw money at him, all willy-nilly, with no regard for a fight's commercial value.
But he doesn't have a promoter. Well, he does himself, but they didn't want to bid for it. You know, it wasn't like, oh, Matchroom did me dirty. What about Devin Haney Promotions? You didn't want to bid for it. You know why? Because if you would have, the show would have lost $1 million. But you're not prepared to do that, but you want me to do that. Don't work like that, mate. If you're with me, if you're loyal to me, I will have your back every day of the week. And, you know, with Devin, even though he's gone in the past, even though he hasn't wanted to sign a longer-term deal, I'm always there. And I will try and make the Liam Paro fight. I want to make Devin Haney against Liam Paro in Australia in October. But that's a fight that doesn't deliver. That's a fight that no one's really interested in. Now, it's a good fight for Devin, in my opinion. I've said before, I don't mind the fight, and maybe he should take it. But we will also present other opportunities if he chooses to accept it. But whilst you're not under contract to us and you don't want to bless us with that obligation and that opportunity and that loyalty.
Here's an example. Jaron Ennis is signed to Matchroom, and as a result of that, Matchroom bid in excess of $4 million, in the neighborhood of $4 million for his upcoming fight with what was supposed to be Cody Crowley.
We know that Cody Crowley dropped out and David Avanesian stepped in, but that's not the point.
Do you think that Jaron Ennis versus Cody Crowley is a $4 million fight?
Or Philadelphia.
That's a $4 million fight.
No, not really.
Then why did Matchroom pay big money for what is not a big fight? It's what I told you. They have this fighter under contract. They actually are invested in his career. He made a commitment to them, so they make a commitment to him. Loyalty works both ways, not just one.
If Devin Haney were under contract with Matchroom, I could see. I could understand.
But he's not. And the fact that your fight was out there for any promoter who's willing to host it, who believes in the show and believes in the fight, that it's a moneymaker, that only Sandor's promoter offered to pay for it, and they didn't offer very much.
That tells the story.
Devin Haney has proven himself to be a shrewd businessman because for some time now he's managed to make well in excess of his market value, his marquee value based on what was his contract minimum with Matchroom. They paid a lot of money to bring him to their platform. But that deal structure, it already ended.
They don't owe you that.
What you were getting based on them wanting to bring American talent to their platform. Not necessarily what you were good for or what you could generate,
but their desire to draw talent to the DAZN platform. That's what that was, and that deal is over.
Now, if you want to keep making $3 million to $3 million plus, it's contingent upon who you're fighting, and you don't get that fighting Sandor Martin.
So you better get real.
Nobody's offering to pay you that for that fight. You can get real, take a haircut on the money, and get it out the way to keep your belt, or you find somebody else that makes for a better fight. Maybe Mario Barrios.
Not because Matchroom is mean or being unfair, but because you want too much money.
This is what I've been saying.